Thank you again for joining us for the Solid Edge Product Data Management series. Is application engineer Sam Estrada. With a career spanning nearly 2 decades, Sam is a leading application engineer with Swish Technologies and a certified Teamcenter specialist. His focus is to help your team collaborate more effectively while accelerating industry design processes through your product lifecycle. Today, in the second part of the series, we will show you the capability of Teamcenter, which provides the collaborative design management function that your engineering team needs to manage design data and communicate both internally and externally to your organization. Also during this presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to add these into your questions box on your GoToWebinar panel. We'll try to answer all the questions once the presentation is through, and we will keep your questions anonymous, so feel free to ask away. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Steve, and once he's done with the presentation, Sam will provide us with a demonstration.
Thank you, Elise. So as Elise mentioned, this is a second in a two-part series. On March 1st, we went through the Solid Edge ST9 built-in data design manager, I should say. And for those of you who have missed that or might be interested in learning more, we do have that on a replay. It's like 35 minutes, and we can be happy to send you the link on that. But today, the main topic is going to be Teamcenter product data management with Solid Edge ST9. A couple slides. Sam will do a demonstration. We'll follow it up with questions. So these are kind of a couple of them that are duplicate from last, just to kind of explain how Siemens positions their product data management solutions around Solid Edge. So if you look at the chart on the upper right corner, you've got requirements on the vertical axis, and Solid Edge seat count would be on the y-axis. And then about 10, 11 years ago, Siemens came up with a product called Solid Edge Insight. It was a free product. It required some Microsoft software like SharePoint and the SQL database and Active Directory. It's very out of the box. It was generally designed for smaller type users, and they came out with Solid Edge SP after that, which is there is a small charge associated with that, but it had all the same architecture as Insight. It just offered a little bit more. After that, our main topic today is the Teamcenter RapidStart product data management system, and like the other two, it's based on Teamcenter. However, it's a subset of Teamcenter where they've taken a lot of the functionality and made it more out of the box for easier implementation and support. It has a little bit more infrastructure requirements in terms of a database that you see listed there, and there is a network infrastructure content to it. And then finally, as you go out on the chart to more seats and more requirements, there's Teamcenter product lifecycle management, and that's targeted at enterprise-wide functionality with a large number of users and very little out of the box. That's something you kind of configure from scratch, and it has the same infrastructure requirements as Teamcenter RapidStart does. A couple things about our Solid Edge install base, if you will, and really what got Siemens, or is giving them direction with regards to data management. Number one, 60% of the users today don't use any type of data management. The ones that do use one of the products I listed on the previous page or a third-party package. Another interesting fact about our user base is that 70% of them has less than 5 licenses, which is really the focus of some of the, their strategy, making sure they can handle the low number of users all the way up to the high number of users. So out of those 60% that don't use PDM today, I would say typically they're using Microsoft Windows Explorer. They might set up project directories or product directories, have release folders and so forth. Some use Revision Manager to automate that a little bit. And a lot of the issues we hear from our customers without product data management is broken links, duplicate files, can't find what you're looking for. It's kind of hard to manage our revisions. Sometimes I can't find stuff, and I might have designed it already and I want to reuse it. And then finally, the ability to collaborate both internally as well as with your customers and suppliers. So Siemens came up with SC9, this what they call built-in design management, which is a design manager, and it started with a rewrite of the revision manager, which you're probably familiar with. Then they went a little bit further. They've added, if you've seen ST9 yet, there's a data management tab now available, so you can get to a lot of that functionality within side of Solid Edge. And it's really focused on the smaller accounts, as you see on note on the diagram, with the 1 to 5 users. One thing that's neat about it, unlike Insight and Solid Edge SP, is that there's no requirement for the SQL database. There's no SharePoint requirement or web server requirement. And then that takes me to our main topic today, which is Teamcenter Rapid Start. It's for folks that have maybe a few more licenses, have a few more detailed requirements about what they're trying to get done with their product data management system. So if you've been onto the Siemens website, you might have seen this diagram on the left. It is Siemens PLM Platform diagram, and their PLM platform is Teamcenter. And if you look at the top, what I have circled, that is where people that are implementing PLM will start at the product data management level, and that's what those boxes define, are those activities associated with PDM, in this case PLM, across the size of the diagram. So it means managing your CAD files. It could be managing your documents associated with those CAD files, quality documents, requirements documents, assembly document, how to assemble your product documents. It also includes managing the design bills of material. And finally, it focuses on managing the engineering process, whether it be a product introduction process as well as a change management process. So that's what we're focusing on today, is the Teamcenter Rapid Start and how it addresses those. And in Siemens' view of the world, after you get that, you accomplish that, you kind of move down the chart, and you get more benefit by a scalable solution that can get you all the way to full product lifecycle management. So I mentioned that Teamcenter Rapid Start is somewhat of a subset of Teamcenter. What I really mean by that is they've taken, over 25 years of developing Teamcenter. They've noticed that a lot of their customers do things oftentimes the same way, and they're successful. So they bundled up a lot of this into best practices or pre-configured things that implement easier and work right out of the box. So in this this particular slide, we talk about again managing, sharing and reusing your CAD files as well as the bills of material. Another nice thing is it's built right into the CAD user interface, so you're not going into and out of a product data management system. It's built right in. A lot of people don't even realize they're using it. And it also allows you to define a standardized way of introducing new part numbers and so forth. On the document management side, it creates relationships between documents and a release of a particular product or assembly or project. It's got a really nice Microsoft Office integration, and it has a lot of pre-configured and the ability to customize reports. And for process management, there's a lot of these proven workflows that we've already have established out of the box for product introduction as well as revision management. And then on the customer role side, we've established some baseline customer roles that makes it a lot easier to configure when you're both setting it up originally as well as when you're adding users. And it really does automate a lot of those tasks for you. So with that, I'd like to introduce Sam Estrada, who's going to do the demonstration.
Thanks, Dave. So let's see here. And you should be able to see my screen now. Cool. Yeah, so like Steve was saying, if you were here for the previous webinar that showed Solid Edge, ST9, and the built-in data management, this is the step up version of product data management with Solid Edge. This is including Teamcenter, and Steve did a great job kind of giving you an overview of what Teamcenter can do. And if you're going from unmanaged to this, or even from Insight into this type of system, this is the creme of the creme. So this can do a lot of different things. We'll kind of get into a light overview of what this does, along with how it looks inside Solid Edge during this quick little demo. One of the main things is that, as Steve was showing you the pre-configured roles on that slide, is that this is a vaulted, secured system. So whenever you want to access the database, you have to log in with certain credentials. So at the moment, I'm logged in as an engineer, and you can see my name at the top. And whenever I log into either the rich client, which is one of the ways I can interact with the database here, or inside Solid Edge, if you use ST9, and one of the cool things is that once you log in, you're accessing the secure database from your native CAD system. So it may be Solid Edge, or if you have a mixed environment with NX and maybe another CAD system like AutoCAD or something like that, you would be able to access the access Teamcenter through your native CAD application by simply putting in your login credentials, telling them what group you belong to, and then you get certain rights in the database. In this instance, I get to access and create data as much as I want, but it's a direct, this is a new interface that they kind of put in and built into ST9. The other one is that with the newer versions of Teamcenter, we get to access the database via a new interface called Active Workspace. This is a web-based HTML5 navigator types, kind of a new GUI that we get to mess around with. It's a little more intuitive, more sleek than what the original rich client is. There's some things that still need to be done in this environment or through this interface, but we're slowly progressing forward through a universal type web interface with Teamcenter. And with ST9, they've added this cool little navigator tab that's built in, so you don't have to leave the system if you don't want to anymore. You can directly come in and interact with the database, interact with your folder structure, much like you do with the older one. And we can set up a demonstration with you if you want to take a look at some of the cool, neat functionality. And you'll kind of see this through the demo. But if I need to access any of the data now, I can, not even leave my CAD system like Steve was saying. I can do all my work from here, and then either through this Active Workspace panel or through some of the new interfaces or through some of the new dialog boxes that they've kind of cleaned up inside Solid Edge. In this right quick, what I'm going to show you is kind of what you would run into in an everyday scenario of changing a part, revising a part within a managed environment like Teamcenter. And going back again to what Steve was saying is like Teamcenter can store and manage not just your CAD data, but all sorts of product data via, for different file types, different CAD systems as well. So big differentiator between what you saw last time in the beginning of the month and this one is like I'm able to manage more than just my Solid Edge files. I'm able to manage PDFs. I'm able to manage Word docs. I'm able to manage pictures, videos if needed. And all this is inside a secured managed vault. In this instance, somebody decided to go ahead and, send me a field report that they've on a part that they encountered out in the field. In this case, it's going to be a yoke for a motorcycle. But they were able to put this information into Teamcenter and send it to me within this managed environment. So now I have a piece of data, a piece of information that I can include in my engineering change order or my instructions to a CAD designer, an engineer, of what needs to happen. And it's all captured and now being stored in Teamcenter, becoming my single source of truth. So in this instance, I scanned a quick PDF, put it into Teamcenter, sent me a little message. I got a little mailbox here. I got an Outlook. I could get an Outlook notification as well, but mainly it's communicating to me that, hey, there may be a problem with this yoke. We may have to move this hole out 15 millimeters. So in this instance, if you get an email like this in Outlook, first thing you would do is close Outlook and then just go through your Windows Explorer, try to figure out which part that we're looking at and how many places it's going to affect, so on and so forth. But now you can do that with Teamcenter, all within a managed environment and pretty quick. So now that because he did give me a pretty good part number, I can query the database and quickly go find that particular part. With the ability of lifecycle visualization, I can quickly view the JT file or a lightweight representation of the model without having to go into Solid Edge. So this is straight in Teamcenter. I'm able to view a 3D representation of that yoke and not consume an extra license. If I need to look at, the drawing file, I can pull up the drawing file and interrogate it real quick. What's going to be changes, by moving this hole at 15 millimeters. I can already start pre-planning that in my head, but off the bat, I'm already have access to both the CAD model and the loose paper drawing all in one single location. And the reason and the way this is what's it called possible is just the way the Teamcenter stores data. If you look at the structure, just kind of giving you a quick little tutorial on how things are stored inside Teamcenter. Very top items, what we call them a main item, and down below we have these item revisions. You can think of these as containers, or nesting. Think of a nesting doll as well. Very top level containers, generic, kind of give me some quick information. In this case, it's a part number followed by a model number per se, what type of motorcycle it is. But it's just a generic container holding, in this case, only a revision A of this part. So revision A of this yoke is the very first one we built as designed. It got released out. It has a special release of 60. I don't know if you could see it on your monitors, depending on how big the resolution is, but there's a small little 60 here that's stamped on the next to this item revision and next to my CAD model and my draft. This represents it's been released into a manufacturing process or released for production. It's got a special tag, it's got a status symbol on it because it's gone through a business process where it got approved and it's being manufactured at the moment. And right now, each one of these data sets is pretty much read-only. I can't change it, I can't edit it because Teamcenter is preserving its history and integrity for future use. So I can't change anything. Great thing, because we're actually making this out in the field. So if there's anything that needs to be done with this, I'm gonna have to either revise it or create a new part. So that's visually straight off, first look, that's what Teamcenter is indicating to me right now. Now, the other thing is, if I'm going to make a change on this, what's this going to affect? Well, I can quickly trace that back and tell, see what other assemblies or components this component is being used in. And pretty much it's being used in one level up, and then next level is going to be the main motorcycle assembly. So it's being used in a fork assembly in only one of those, and if I need to check that out, I can send it to its own little tab over here and get a quick look at it. This is an assembly, so it contains multiple parts. Again, Solid Edge takes care of reference linking each one of these components, so the CAD product does all this by itself. If I need to take a look at the actual structure, So while this is loading, what it's doing is this is my BOM structure coming straight out of CAD for that fork assembly. So it includes my yoke. And what I'm doing now is I'm having Teamcenter pull up each one of the JT files that are associated with each one of those parts, and Teamcenter is creating a virtual assembly for me. And it's going to show me the particular configuration it is right now. I'll also get feedback on different file properties, so I can see that the top level assembly has been released. And so here's my yoke. And I can also see that, you know, each one of these was saved as a precise assembly, so it's going to show up with item revision A all the time. So they're looking at everything. So right now we'll just go with the visual picture. You know, there's my yoke. I can turn things off. But for my engineering change order, you know, because I need to make this change, I'm going to, you know, I already started an engineering change order right down here. And what this is going to act as is my packet. Then I'm going to put all this information that I'm generating, I'm finding, and I'm going to put together this packet and send it through one of our workflows that's available through the RapidStart configuration. So in this instance, I filled out a quick little report telling what we're going to do to this yoke and what changes need to be made. And now I need to associate data with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one, I need to include the part that's going to be adjusted and changes and corrected. So it happens to be this particular yoke piece. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to go ahead and I want to associate that and connect that to my engineering change order. Well, how do we do that? It's as simple as copy and paste. Okay, I'm not duplicating any data. Think of these as shortcuts. That's one of the big things. There's not two yokes now in Teamcenter. It's smart enough to know if I copy a shortcut, if I copy a item revision from one place and paste in another, into a folder over here, I'm creating a reference link to the same part. So there's no duplication of data. It's just kind of connecting Teamcenter's, you know, connecting a spider web and connecting different joints. So saying, okay, now I want this particular yoke and this particular assembly to be referenced in my engineering change order. Why? So in case, you know, in the near future, you need to see what was associated with that particular EO, you can quickly do a search for in Teamcenter and find what's associated with it. Other piece of data I want to attach to it, I want to attach that PDF. You know, I want people to have as much information whenever they get this packet or look at this engineering change order and know why the change was actually made. If there was an external document, say a Word doc, that needed to be saved up in the Teamcenter, so something, you know, more formal that you wanted to attach minus the notes and an email, using the integration, what you could do is you could save your Word doc or whatever document you wanted directly into Teamcenter, and you don't have to leave the comfort of, you know, what programs you're familiar with. We integrate into the Office product, so we got a straight tab that you can copy and paste and put documents into directly from Word or Office or any one of those. So I could add that particular field report. I can also drag and drop it. Oh, there's my Outlook. Let's go back to Teamcenter. So there's my report that I put in here. I killed everything. So if I look at the report, I can go into a viewer within Teamcenter and take a look at it as well if I need to. You know, and I can check it out, make changes to it. But say I got that issue report, I want to go ahead and have this piece of data part of my string of information that's going to include and, you know, trace along with this engineering change order. I have all this extra data, non-CAD data, CAD data that can go with this engineering change order, and through the configure RapidStart configuration, I have a preset template, a process template that's going to be used over and over again that's available to me straight out of the box. And what does this look like? Well, one, it attaches, I can attach all my targets, so all my engineering change order, all the data that you just saw in the previous screen goes along with it. And if I had 5 EOs, engineering change orders I had to do today, I could put them all in one single workflow, you know, use one process template and send them all out at one single time. So that's something you don't have in, you know, say Insight or just the built-in data management. You have this capability of either making your own or using some of the pre-configured versions of these process templates to release and put status and track, different processes that your business uses. So in this instance, I'm going to use the engineering change order. It goes through a couple of system checks, but it automatically routes this to different people in my organization. Who's it routing it to? I can have the system determine who it needs to route to, who it needs to check, or I could go in here and pick and choose from a list of qualified candidates. I can assign who's going to be a checker, who's going to be the engineer, who's going to review. The system can force me to pick who I need to pick, or there can be a pre-configured list of those available to me. So there's quite a few different things that can happen. If you have the integration into Outlook, you can quickly get notified and sync up your tasks. You'll get a little notification telling you, hey, there's a sign-off waiting for you. You need to go take care of this. And you can either navigate to it within Outlook, go in and go to your inbox and check your task to perform. You got to go review targets. You'll see the EO here. You can log on through Active Workspace. You can log on quite a few different areas, but Teamcenter takes care of the routing for you, takes care of informing the person what needs to be done in each step, what needs to be, which task needs to be done, communicating information without having to send an email or a manila folder everywhere. The data follows through, and all the person needs to do that's responsible for that is to make the change, review the data, and then make a decision on send it to somebody who needs to take care of it. So it's all here. Send that off to the next reviewer. What do they need to do with it? If it needs to go to a particular person, you can track that information. Who's it going to? When did it go? You can get a visual cue of what's going on. So you're talking about several steps above what Insight and the built-in data management is. If you're somebody participating is not in the office, you have connection to, you're using Active Workspace. You connected via VPN or reverse proxy, you can still communicate and participate in your duties that you need to do with, say, signing off on workflows. If you're looking at this engineering change order, you can see who has done it, when it was done. You get the same type of information that you got inside the inside the rich client. You can get a quick visual cue on what needs to be done. You're sending this off to the engineer. What needs to be done at this stage right here. The manager needs to approve it. Things like that. All this is available to you within Teamcenter and using it in that confine. So he can approve it, send it over. It comes back to me, comes back to the engineer that now the change has to be made. So the engineer takes this either through his Outlook or through the rich client. He goes in and interrogates the data, what needs to change. This yoke needs to change. Look at the issue report. He can go jump in straight into Solid Edge now. So I need to go ahead and launch this. I can launch it directly from here, from the rich client. I can launch it directly from Active Workspace. It'll automatically open up, load up the data set, transfer it over, cache it in my work system, and now I can take it from here and I can start working on it. First thing that's going to get indicated to me is that this particular assembly has been released. I get feedback. It's been released out as a 60, so any change that I make to this part here is going to affect this top level assembly. So there's two changes that need to be made. I can utilize the new menu ribbon bar that's been added into ST9. They've cleaned this up over here quite a bit, so now I don't have to go to my application menu. I can quickly go here and say, what, I want to go ahead and revise this to the next rev letter, number, combination of. Teamcenter automatically takes care of that for me. All I have to do is tell it, go ahead and perform the task. So they've cleaned up even this dialog box. I got new icons, I got new filters, I can do searches from there as well. If I need to go ahead and upload any data that I'm working on, say I don't want to relinquish my checkout. Why? What's that checkout important? Well, much like the other packages, checkouts give you direct access and lock on particular data that you're working on. So if I want to continue working on this assembly without anybody else opening up this assembly and making changes to it, I can constantly upload my data, save my data to the database while still retaining the checkout. If I need to work on the yoke. I need to go ahead and make a change to this yoke over here. I can quickly go in here and make a change to the hole. If I needed to look up directly inside Solid Edge, hey, where's this? Where's this part being used? Is it being used in a draft? We know there's a draft file associated with it. I can look that information up over here. So knowing that if I'm about to make a change to this, I'm going to make a revision change on both the draft file and the part file. Okay, so again, this indicator pops up. I'm dealing with a part that's been released. I can quickly go in and revise the part. I can say, hey, I bump it up. It automatically recognizes there's a draft connected to it, so no jumping around in folders, trying to move which is in progress, which is out of progress, baselining something, changing the status in Design Manager. Teamcenter takes care of that for me. Teamcenter is automatically automating each one of these processes, moving one part to another, revising it, changing the status on one, allowing me to seamlessly go in and do my job without worrying about overwriting parts too much. If I'm concerned with making sure that different things get done in the right order, I know my draft file is going to be updated automatically. I just have to open it up and double check it. I know that my assembly is now updated. I've got a Rev B on the assembly, Rev B on the part. Once I close everything, I get a quick notification, hey, want to go ahead and check these back in. I know they're both Rev Bs. If I needed to initiate a workflow process, I could do that from here as well. One thing I want to show you, I'm going to open up the draft file straight from here. So I'm going to go and peruse. You can do a quick search on that particular yoke, and I'm going to change my filter. So they revamped this area as well. So I'm going to go ahead and look for the draft files. There's a draft file associated with it. I could do my searches much like I do with Internet Explorer. I can do with new revamp model dialog boxes I find with ST9. Update my drawing. I can clear all my revision balloons if I wanted to. Readjust this. So now I have a clear and present. There we go. I get a clear indicator. Yeah, it did move. My rev volume went to B, but one of the cool things now is the file properties tab that they've incorporated into the menu ribbon. Menu ribbon automatically have exposed to me all the properties that are associated with both CAD, Solid Edge, and Teamcenter. What's being written into both of them. If I need to add extra information, I can add it all in here, one fell swoop, and then save it. If there's any custom fields, they'd be exposed to me down here. So if there's any field properties that you added in that are custom to your company, bam, one single spot. Now, quicker and easier to get to instead of having to navigate, and less mouse button clicks. The other thing is if you set up your Rapid Start correctly, or if you want to, you can have it to where it automatically generates a PDF every time you save a draft file. I haven't done that on mine, but you can do it. It's one of the first things that you would want to do inside of your normal implementation. Once you're done, part of this EO, I've already made my changes. One of the final steps is, hey, which part's going to get, one of the background things, or one of the cool things with this pre-configured system is that I can take care of more than one thing at a time. So with this particular yoke, I can actually release out, kind of do two things at once, and release out and obsolete a previous version and a new version. So I'm going to take my old Rev A, and I'll show you this on when it finishes up its little round trip around the office. Let's go ahead and send this off. We're going to go ahead and approve it. Oh yeah, we don't need that. Let's go ahead and approve this out. Say yes. We're done with it, showing that we've done the work. It's going to go around, and I'm going to kind of do this off on the side, but I'm going to go ahead and send it through its last step here. Normally there's a manager approval that takes place. and he already made his approval. So if we come back and take a look at, what happened with this change and everything. One, we've created a new part. And if we take a look over here as the system refreshes, we'll find that you'll see some new symbols pop up to each one of these. My Rev A now has a 90, which means it's been obsoleted. So if I look at my engineering change request, I have an obsolete part, which is Rev A. So Rev A now has gone the way of the dodo because I have a new Rev B, which has taken its place. There's also, if I interrogate my fork assembly and take a look at its structure, I now have a Rev A and a Rev B. So you can see each one of these little mini containers now holds data particular to each item revision. So this is a different data set that represents B. This is the assembly that represents A. So small 15 millimeter moved out yoke over here with B. Same thing with A, except A, I obsoleted the part. It went straight over, and this is a new part that I'm using that's been released out. I still have history on the other one. If I wanted to get a quick, see if this works over here. There we go. There we go. Look at that. Rev A and Rev B. What changed between the two? You can use the lifecycle visualization to do a quick compare of the draft files. Which is Rev A is represented in 1. Okay, that's Rev A in red, Rev B is in green. It moved up. So you can quickly, if you're somebody who's, didn't want to look at all the other report, you can quickly take a look at this as a quick reference, even if you're a checker. If you want to quick to make sure that the engineer or the person that was responsible for the change actually made the change, you can throw it into one of these lifecycle visualization tools and quickly do a comparison between the two. But I maintain my history between one and the other. That's capped, the integrity is capped between both Rev A and Rev B. All that done through just either going through one of the connectors into Teamcenter via the rich client or active workspace, or if you even work within, just Solid Edge, you can pull that information up directly native to the CAD, in your CAD file, in your CAD session, connect to the database, interact with it, pull information in and out of it. Later on, if, one thing I didn't go over was if you want to make an audit on this, say a year from now, what happened with this engineering change order? What was involved? Or if you're looking at the yoke, if you're looking at this yoke, why was this thing obsoleted? You can do a quick backtrace. Okay, where is this thing being referenced in? And you can see that it's tied to an engineering change order. If there was multiple ones of these, you would see multiple engineering change orders. Wherever this thing was copied and pasted and referenced, Teamcenter will show you exactly where it's being used and referenced at. So how many EOs is it a part of? Right now, 1, you could pull that information up. Give me the history. What happened to it? What happened during this engineering change order? Who signed off on it? Who's responsible for it? All our usernames have been tracked by Teamcenter. Who had anything to do with this is listed here. It has our times too, even. Did we take too long? How long was each process? How long is, if you're doing analytics, you can run reports off of all this. It's already stored background too. It's all automated. So you're not constantly having to log this yourself. So that's the beauty of having one of these, having Teamcenter versus having, if you're using Insight and you're looking to move up and having, some order and reusability with business practices and vaulting more than just, maybe some Office files indirectly with Solid Edge files. If you're looking for, a total stepping stone, like the graphic that Steve showed you, top level, Teamcenter will grow with you. If you just want to install the base version, product data management with documents, CAD, process, and BOM, you can start with this and then move off into some of the other modules. But with that, I think I went a little long, but I think Steve will forgive me. So it's all yours, Steve.
All right, thank you, Sam. That was a lot of information in a short period of time. Thank you very much. So I have one final slide that talks about investment associated with both of the products in our series. So the first one, it was the one we covered March 1st. If you wanted to implement the built-in design manager, you don't have to purchase any other software. The main architecture is based off of the Microsoft indexing. And if you guys use Microsoft, there's a good chance you're already using the indexing utility. We would just modify it to use it to search the solid edge data. You can implement it yourself. One thing we'd like to offer, it would be like 1.5 days where we don't even need to be on site, but we go through your directory structure, what you're trying to achieve with the release directories, your product numbering schemes, what properties you're capturing now that you might want to do searches on, and things like that. And we kind of help you set it up. So for Teamcenter, there is software involved, and for those out have looked at Teamcenter in the past, the solid edge customers, in the past I thought it was somewhat prohibitive, but that's changed substantially. So for instance, if you have a license of Solid Edge Classic today, you can get Solid Edge Classic with Teamcenter with the incremental $750. Same thing, if you have premium, you can switch it to premium with Teamcenter for $88. There is a Teamcenter Rapid Start server. It's not a requirement, but I highly recommended it. So if you get just Teamcenter by itself, you can do this stuff, but what this Teamcenter Rapid Start server does is provides you all that extra pre-configured stuff that makes it both easier to implement and as well as easier to use. And then one thing that we really haven't talked about yet is a lot of the people, all the CAD users are what Teamcenter refers to as an author. And an author is somebody that has rewrite access to the database. Well, a lot of companies, they'll have people like purchasing or management or quality that they don't have a CAD system, but they still need to get to that data. So and we have a read-only license called a consumer license that you can purchase for a little over $900 that allows you to do that. And as Sam pointed out, whenever we check something into the database, we're putting lightweight versions of it so that you can still look at the 3D data, you can still look at the 2D data and anything else, and you can also participate in the workflow and for checkoff, sign off, and so forth. And lastly, if we're doing an out of the box implementation of Teamcenter RapidStart, it typically takes about a week, and that includes installing the server software, installing the clients, end user training, and administrator training. I think that covers that in terms of investment. So now we can open it up for questions.
Okay, great. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Sam. That was great. We did have a couple questions. One was, does Teamcenter work in the cloud?
That's a good one.
Yes, it does. Yeah, yes, it does. Steve, you want to take the first part? I'll take the second part.
Sure. So we have a relationship, or Teamcenter / Siemens has a relationship and working with Amazon Cloud, and we've set up instances of Teamcenter in the cloud. It works quite well. Where it's kind of nice is if you don't have a really good support infrastructure within your company, and you'd like to rely on ours and the services from Amazon, that can make it a lot easier on you. We haven't done a lot of them for production, but we have done several of them as a pilot program. We'll put it up in the cloud, flush it out, and then usually it seems like the customers want to move it local.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the deal with the cloud is that we'll set it up to where you can use it either. Well, now they're moving away from, but now it's quick, it's seamless. You don't need a VPN. You just connect to it through what we call a reverse proxy. So the only thing that changes is where the data is being transmitted to. So the couple of requirements that need to be met, but yeah, we can we definitely can house and run Teamcenter directly off the cloud.
Okay, great. I do think, Sam, I think you touched on this a little bit, but we had a question about, can you interface Solid Edge and Teamcenter with an ERP system?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
It's we have a great service with Siemens who there is a team that's what their job is, and they actually bought a company, and that's what their job is, to write integrations in directly into ERPs. So we go into SAP, we go into Oracle. All we need to know is what type of ERP you have and what type of data you want to go in there, and we can work out the integration to the details.
Okay, great. That was all the questions we had. So thank you guys, everyone, for sticking around. That was a lot of really helpful information, Sam and Steve. I hope you guys
Thank you.
enjoyed our session today. And as a reminder, if you do have any questions that you need answered, feel free to reach out to Sam, Steve, or I. Would be happy to help you at any moment. Also, keep a lookout for your inbox. I'll be sending a replay video going over everything that we've covered today. I'll also throw it up on our YouTube channel so you can review it at any time.